Hey everybody, today Rahdo rambles through his 2019 shelf update. And for folks who have been watching this series over the years, and if you haven't, you can hit that I right up there to go to a playlist of all my previous updates. For folks who are familiar with it, there's going to be a couple of major changes this year. One, we're in a whole new country. You guys already knew that, right? We're not in Malta anymore. And so I've got a whole new setup, although I'm going to do this the same way I've always done. You can see a bunch of games are pulled out. I'm just going to let you know what has been added to the collection. I think, if my calculations are correct, and they never are, I'm at 104 new games that have been put out on the shelf and only 15 that have been removed. That is not a good ratio at all. So that's going to have something I'm having to work on this year. But anyway, I said there's two things different. The other thing is this is a ramble. In the past years, I've done run-throughs, which means everybody could see it. But starting this year, this yearly update is going to be for backers' eyes only. And that's pretty much it. So let's just jump over here and start going. Now, interestingly, I imagine folks are going to ask, hey, how is this organized? The answer, not very. I do try to put games by the same publisher next to each other wherever possible. Or in some cases, like over there, I've got a bunch of Feld games all together. Here is one bit of organization I've done. This, and this pocket. Oh, and those ones right there. Yeah, all of these are games that I own and haven't filmed, either the game itself or the expansion, like those Queen games over there, but that are probably not going to get filmed anytime soon because they're things that I've gotten for myself. And so I put them all over here. Maybe if I ever get through all the publisher-donated games, that have been submitted for run-throughs and all that, I'll be able to start covering some of all of these. But in the meantime, at least I'll tell you what they are. Starting with Islas Canarias, the Canary Islands. Now this is interesting. I've actually had this game for many, many years. 8, 9 years, something like that. It was one of the first games I got when we got into board gaming. But when we left Malta, we temporarily stayed in our house in England, where a lot of my games had been kept up in an attic. And I took the opportunity to grab a lot of them and bring them back to the States. And Islas Canarias is one of those. And man, while I have played it a few times back in the day, I hardly remember anything about it now. It is from Leo Colavini, who is a very, very clever designer. Really interesting, puzzly stuff he always does, but this might as well be totally new. I barely remember anything about it. And continuing on, One Deck Dungeon. Apparently that's a very popular little roll dice and go through a dungeon. I guess it's a very well received as a solo game. I don't know anything about it. I picked it up at a whim at Guardian Games a few months ago when they were doing an all-day garage sale. So I think I picked this up for just a few bucks. Figured, what the heck, I'll give it a try. But again, I'm not likely to give it a try as long as publishers, as long as I have a collection of games from publishers that I haven't filmed yet. But someday. Ice in the Sky, that was a gift from a couple of dear friends. And very sad that we haven't gotten it to the table either. But of all of these, this would be the one I'd want to the most. It seems like a very cool, sort of semi-abstract co-op game. It kind of has that Hanabi, hey, players can't talk openly about what they're trying to do vibe, and is based on a very good documentary. But I don't know much more about it. I'm looking forward to trying it someday. Palazzo and the original Carcassonne. These are two more that I pulled out of my closet. I don't think I need to say anything about Carcassonne. Palazzo is a nice little tile drafting game from Reiner Knizia. I remember liking it at the time, although it's been so long I barely remember it. Okay, and then jumping down here, we have got Let's Make a Bus Route. When I got back to the States, I figured I was going to start doing lots of board game trades because it'd be a lot more feasible shipping-wise than it ever was in Malta. And this is one of the first things I got in trade for some games I was trying to get rid of. And I haven't tried it yet. I realized a couple of problems as soon as it showed up. One, it's got the same problem of me making time to be able to play it. And two, shipping games in America is crazy expensive. So after I picked up Let's Make a Bus Route and a couple other games, including Ancestree right here and Dicey Peaks, I decided, and Pyramids, all of these. I haven't played any of them, and I just traded for them recently, and I don't know. This is from Dunstan and Gilbert, the Elysium guys. I'm really keen on this, although it's apparently a super light game. Ancestry is from Eric Lang, and it's supposedly a very nice card drafting game. Dicey Peaks, I don't really know much about. Let's Make a Bus Route, supposedly a very good roll and write, really unique. But I don't know. Someday I'll play them. But I'm done trading. Those are the 4 things I got in trade. Klondike 1896. This is one I've wanted to check out a long time. It's one of the early designs of Vladimir Sushi, who has really exploded recently with underwater cities. And last year he had Pulsar 2849. This is one of the old ones. I was able to find a copy in Germany. Actually, a fan of the show found it and sent it to me. So I look forward to seeing Vlad's early works. But again, if it sits on these particular shelves, it's going to take a while before it gets to the table, unless some high-level backer of the show says, I want to use my director power, and chooses one of these to get filmed. Who knows? And let's see. Oh, also, Darkness Comes Rattling. This was the other one. I also got this in a trade. This has a really stark, striking look to it. It's a cooperative game where we're trying to destroy a world snake. It's from Kevin Wilson. I don't know much about it, but man, if you could see the cover art, it's absolutely stunning. So, and then also I've got a copy of Eminent Domain here. This is actually it didn't have, the guy who sent it to me in the trade didn't have the original box, so he sent, the expansion box, so he sent me Eminent Domain Exotica, which it was really weird. I don't know why Tasty Minstrel didn't actually send me a copy to do a video, but they didn't, so I just went out and got my own copy, looking forward to trying it someday. Oh, and, hey. Oh, actually, wait a minute, no. I should say, with these collection updates, they have always been focusing only on games, not expansions. That's why I didn't pull this out, or experimental labs. There are plenty of expansions I've picked up that I haven't covered or anything yet either, but I just try to focus on the games itself. So anyway, so that's that little section. Let's, this is all over the place. Let's just jump down here and get into new stuff. Now, everything else I'm about to talk about, I have already filmed. It's actually amazing to me to think that I have filmed all of these games. And this only represents maybe a quarter of all the games. Not even a quarter of all the games I have filmed for you folks over the years. But anyway, so totally as an aside, hey, here's Newfoundland, which is a very, I'm afraid this one's really going to fly under the radar. Jen and I really liked it a lot. Very neat new game of building ships to sail to the Newfoundland, and ferry colonists over. But I mean, there's actually quite a bit going on. It's really sharp. If I recall correctly, it's from the designers of, I can't think of it now. But you can check out the run through. Anyway, we liked it enough to keep it, so that's saying something. Then we've got First Train to Nuremberg. This was like, I think the 3rd or the 4th video I ever did a run through for, and it's another one of those games that was up in my attic all these years, and I finally gotten it back. It is from Martin Wallace. It's a very different take on train route building than what you normally see, and it's very cool. Although I'm afraid if you want to watch my run through, like I said, it was my 4th one, so it's kind of tough to watch since I was filming with the iPhone back then and didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, moving on, we've got Orbis. Ooh, this is really neat. Cool, fun tile laying game. Very nice, very puzzly as we play gods, building up our own private universe. Check out I think that one didn't get a run through. That one got a run down. And so it might still get a run through someday if I ever, get through all of the games that I have yet to film one way or the other. And again, it might get a full run through instead of a rundown if a director asks for it. But I don't know. Some games are getting rundowns, and that seems to be enough. I mean, but anyway, suffice to say, it was very, very cool, and I'd love to play it some more. And now here is Carcassonne. Wait, I'm sorry. I thought that was Carcassonne. Shouldn't have pulled that out. I just meant to pull out Carcassonne Safari, the latest themed Carcassonne. Really neat. I don't know if we're going to keep it ultimately because, I mean, Carcassonne Castle is still better, but this is probably, in my opinion anyway, the 2nd best Carcassonne there is after Carcassonne Castle, and who knows, maybe someday we'll be in a situation where we need to play Carcassonne with more than 2. And then we've got Bouquet here. Very neat, colorful little roll and write, making bouquets of flower. You can check out my rundown to learn more about it, but it was lovely. And since we're down here on the floor, let's talk briefly about Sailing Towards Osiris. I did a run through for that when it was on Kickstarter, and the full version finally showed up halfway through the year. And I have an expansion for it that I'm looking forward to giving a go. which means maybe I'll get it to the table again. That's one nice thing about getting expansions, is it ups my chances of going back and playing games that we really like that we don't get to go back to. But you can check out my video for more. Actually, I could say that for every single thing. Suffice to say, this is a really neat game where the Osiris River is a central element as the main boat moves down. New opportunities become available in this economic Eurosim. Other ones go away. There's some really clever worker placement stuff because the workers are drawn from a bag, almost bag builder style, but not really. A lot of neat, interesting ideas in Sailing Towards Osiris. And Helionox, I had the original version of Helionox, but I got rid of it because the publisher sent me the deluxe edition. And I don't know, do I need to do a video? It's just an updated version of the original. Does that warrant me doing another one? I figured not. But now that I think about it, maybe it should be with all the games I still need to play. But anyway, neat deck builder, one of those ones that I think gets a lot of mileage out of the fact that you're building a deck, but your cards are also used to help you move through a physical space, kind of like Clank, although this one is in outer space and does things very, very differently. Neat, fun game. And now, one of the new games of last year, The Boldest, from Sophia Wagner, a new designer who came out of the gate with Noria, which was very, very neat, but I had a couple issues with it. But still, overall, I liked it. But we ultimately didn't keep that one because of the issues we had. But The Boldest definitely turns out to be a keeper. Really, really cool, what do you call it? Simultaneous programming game where it's set in a far-flung future, kind of like, oh, what was that movie by the Wachowskis with Tom Hanks and Halle Berry where they talk about the true? It's kind of like that, where, you know, it's so far in the future, the Eloi have forgotten what the technology of the past was, and now they're afraid of it kind of stuff. Neat game, clever, fun stuff. Check out my video to learn why. Then we've got Blackout Hong Kong. Oh, this is a sad one because this would have made my top 10 of the year. It just didn't show up in time. Obviously, like most years, except for last year, I'm going to try and do a top 10 revisit for 2018 in April or May, at which point I will officially name Blackout in my top 10 of the year, because wow, it is so good. And I have to admit, I don't really quite understand why the game gets a fair bit of grief for not being thematic enough, being too abstract, being too ugly. Every single time I see that, I mean, to me, it's as thematic and attractive looking as Pandemic. I guess a lot of people really think Pandemic is too unthematic and ugly as well. I don't know, but Jen, I really, really liked it a lot. Very clever card hand management gameplay trying to survive the Blackout of Hong Kong from Alexander Pfister. Now we got to jump up here, and it's Pandemic, Fall of Rome, the latest one. It's so good, it makes me forgive the fact that it is roll to resolve combat, where instead of fighting viruses, we are fighting invading hordes of barbarians trying to tear down Rome and sack the city. Neat, fun take on the classic. Absolutely loved it, and it has joined my nice little Pandemic collection here, along with Rising Tide, Iberia, The Cure, and my original first edition copy, the game that started everything for us. Of course, over here is my legacy, where I keep all the regular Pandemic stuff, but I couldn't get rid of the old one. Anyway, talking about Matt Leacock Cooperative Games, how about Forbidden Sky? This one did not get near as much love as Forbidden Desert. And I'm not quite sure why, because I think it's a really great game. I think maybe Forbidden Desert was so amazing. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that maybe it set the bar too high. And because Forbidden Sky is not as good as a Desert, it is still really good. We still really like it enough to keep it and keep, the Forbidden series going. But yeah, it got a lot of mixed reviews. But Jen, I really enjoyed it. And speaking of the Forbidden series, yep, I now have a copy of Forbidden Island. I did not go out and get this. The reason I have it is because, as longtime fans of my show know, my mom has moved in with us. Forbidden Island is the one game my mom owned. She had picked it up to play with her granddaughter, my niece, who is Savannah. I think she must be like 13 now. And I know Mom had several games playing Forbidden Island with Savannah, and Savannah really enjoyed it. And really, that is the best way to play Forbidden Island, with young children. For me and Jen, it's way, way, way too light. It was not something I'd ever go seek out, but I've got it now. And I do kind of like having the full series right here. All right, and it just reminds me, I love the tin boxes. Why did they abandon the tin box? So sad. And speaking of pandemic, one more. Up there is my Pandemic 10th Anniversary Edition, which I also really adore. Although it's interesting, Z Garcia of the Dice Tower recently noticed and posted about the fact that there is an actual misprint on the board. One of the connections in one of the Far East Asian city, between Bangkok and someplace, I don't remember exactly where, is missing from the board, and so people are really outraged because this is an expensive box. It's upwards of $100 to get this thing, and it has the cool deluxe minis and the nice reprint. I mean, I liked everything about it, but I'm embarrassed to say I did not notice that missing line. And so now everybody's waiting to hear, what is Z-Man going to do? Everybody's assuming Z-Man missed it, and it was a quality control issue. Will they issue updated replacement boards for people who have a copy? I don't know. As soon as they announce, though, I'm going to do an update to my video for this to let everyone know. So we're just waiting. But in the meantime, let's get back to the shelf rundown. Oh, by the way, when we got here, we did go to Blue Highway Games. And I kept the bag because, of course, Blue Highway Games is so important to us, seeing as how they are the ones who sold me this copy of Pandemic all those years ago and changed gens in my life. But anyway, let's continue. I basically got some artifacts up on the top of the shelf in here because I got so much space. So what do we got now? Hey, it's 1906, San Francisco, one of the games I picked up when we went to Blue Highway Games. Neat little rondel game, very clever the way it puts itself together. A nice subject matter too, rebuilding San Francisco after the Great Quake of 1906. Oh, what is this called? This is Round the World. I need to turn this around so there's actual title here. This is Round the World, a very neat real-time card tableau building game, I guess you'd say. Kind of hard to describe, and I know a lot of people will be put off by real time. No! But don't worry, folks. The game gives you ample time. The real time is there just to make sure people don't, bog it down. But neat and fun. Check out my rundown. It's basically we're trying to make... what do you call it? When a plane goes from one city to another. Lines, lanes? I can't think of the word, but that's what we're doing in this game, and it's fun. Okay, over here, I've got a nice little summary. Here's a thematic or a genre grouping of a bunch of roll and writes, or if not roll and writes, games with lots of dice. And Fleet, the dice game, is a phenomenal new roll and write game, as are Railroad Ink Blue and Railroad Ink Red and Roll for the Top. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 roll and writes. Last year was the year of the roll and writes, and I like them all. If you made me rank these four, I think Fleet, Red, Blue, Roll for the Top, I think is how I'd break those down. Alrighty. Okay. Although you can just go to rank.raw.com. I've already broke it down. I just don't remember what I said, but that's off the top of my head. See if I'm consistent. You can go check it out. Next up, Spirium. Now this is interesting. Spirium is a game that we had in Malta, but I got rid of as part of the massive culling of last year when I got rid of 200 games or so. But I didn't want to. Like most of those games, I wanted to keep them, just didn't want to move them halfway around the world. When I was at the Gambit game or the Guardian Games flea market, which I mentioned before, when I picked up One Deck Dungeon, I saw somebody selling this. I picked it up for like 10 or 12 bucks. Absolutely amazing. And I was so happy to get it back. The only reason I got rid of it was, well, again, I was trying to figure out games to get rid of, and I had a friend in Malta who loved it so much, he couldn't find it. And so, I kind of gifted it to him and said goodbye. Thought I'd never see it again. But then within a month of getting to our final destination, boom, it falls back into my lap. I'm happy to have it again. I don't know if I should include it because, hey, it has been on the list in the past, but last year it was off the list and now it's back on. I've been reunited with Spirium, which is an absolutely phenomenal, really innovative, far-out worker placement game from the designer of Kalis. Unfortunately, unlike Kalis, it doesn't feature a really mean-spirited gameplay. Neat stuff. Century Eastern Wonders, the sequel to Century Spice Road. Now, Century Eastern Wonders, I don't think would be a keeper on its own. And I know Century Spice Road would not be a keeper on its own. But the beautiful thing about this Century series, you can combine them into one bigger, richer, more deep game, and then it really comes to life. I was super impressed, and I cannot wait for the third one. I think it's Century New World or something like that, to see how all three games combine. Then we've got Fine Sand. And, oh boy, I said a crazy thing when I did my video for this the other day, that it is the best Freedom and Freeze game of all time. Although then I hasten to add, to gens in my taste, because Power Grid is not very good with 2, and what's his other one that I might rank higher? Friday is a solo-only game, whereas this works phenomenally with 2, and I suspect would work at every player count. And Jen and I have had a really great time having the Fable system that Stronghold Games and Friedman Freeze likes to call it. But, yeah, the fact that every time you play this quick little 20-minute filler game, the game fundamentally changes because new cards are getting added, other cards are getting removed. Neat stuff. The theme is also very cool, too. Building sandcastles. It's just a shame it doesn't come through. It's practically an abstract, but we love the game space so much. I mean, Jen said, you are not getting rid of this. This is my new go-to if we have 20 minutes. We're going to play another game of Fine Sand and see how it changed since the last time we played. Then coming on down, we've got Crown of Emara. This is a very, very sharp Euro-style game. Basically kind of a double rondelle going on and action programming, and it just does everything brilliantly. And the interesting thing about it is from a designer, Benjamin Schwer, who up till now has only designed games for little kids, for like Haba and stuff like that. This is his first mature game, and he knocked it out of the park. Jen, I really liked it a lot. Did it make my top 10 of the year? I don't remember if it did. If it didn't, it was like number 11 or 12, but it's really, really good. Then coming down here, we've got Shadows Amsterdam, which obviously I put right next to Dixit and Mysterium because this game is basically kind of a combination of those two games. In that one player is a clue giver, the other members on their team are trying to understand those clues, which come in the form of, pictures. They're not quite as abstract or surreal as these, but still pictures of scenes, and you use that to actually traverse a map and race against time to defuse bombs, if I recall correctly, that have been planted all around Shadows of Amsterdam. Like Dixit and Mysterium, this is another great, wonderful social game, and but unlike Dixit anyway, it works phenomenally as a two-player game as well. I look forward to trying to play as a team game at some point in the future. Then we've got Spring Meadow, the third in Uwe Rosenberg's Tetris tile-laying trilogy after, what were the other two? Cottage Garden was the first one, and, what do you call autumn? Indian Summer. Yeah. Indian Summer, Cottage Garden, and Spring Meadows are the trilogy. The first two we did not keep. This one we did. It's the best of the bunch. Even though it's the simplest and most pure and streamlined, maybe that's why it's the best. I don't know. But anyway, then we've got Reef, a very cool... most people call it abstract, but I don't think it's abstract at all. I think the publisher just made a terrible mistake not giving it a strong theme, or, explaining how the theme of reef growing could actually fit into our real-world climate change rattled situation. Because there are scientists out there actually trying to rebuild reefs. Why didn't they just theme it that? But that aside, sorry, I complained about that in my video too, it's a very sharp, clever, super fast, fun little game of 3D, not tile stacking. They come with these very cool plastic pieces to build colorful reefs and try to hit certain targets. Neat, fun game. It's not really a sequel, but it's like the follow-up to Azul from the same designer and publisher, and unlike Azul, which was not a keeper for us, this was totes a keeper. Then we come down here all the way to the floor where I don't have much room, and we have got Rival Realms, which is basically a sequel to Fantastiqa, set in the same, magical world. And it's actually, a combination of Fantastiqa and Musée, two games from the same designer, Alf Siegert, taking those two ideas, putting them together into something that, is definitely an improvement on Musée. I don't think Musée was a keeper, but Rival Realms is. Neat, clever, fun little game of traipsing around, having adventures in this kind of whimsical fairy tale land. And next to it is Boomerang, such a pure, clean, elegant card drafting game. Without all the overhead of something like Seven Wonders, but also not super duper lightweight, only for gateway people like Sushi Go. This has the simplicity and the streamline and the form factor and speed of a Sushi Go, while still having the depth of a bigger game, and that's what makes it a phenomenal, tiny little box with a lot of gameplay inside it. It's Boomerang. And then the Era of Voyage Discovery, which was a neat rondelle game where our ships are sailing around the rondelle, picking up goods, and then taking them to other places on the rondelle, turning around, taking shortcuts, having cool, unique special powers. It's just a neat game. There were a lot of rondelles games that came out in the last year or so, and this was one of the better ones, I think. Then, Carson City, the card game, which also made my top 10 of the year, is by far the lightest. And I think it's probably the one that made most people say, what, really? Especially after it got absolutely savaged by Z Garcia of the Dice Tower. Man, I just think some people fundamentally do not get it. The reason it rated so high for me, this is basically a stripped-down card version, replacing worker placement with auctions of its big brother, Carson City. And, just the core game works great, but it works so well as a two-player game because it includes rules for dummies that emulate other players, and it just sings. It is so nice. It's just incredibly tense and exciting from beginning to end. Absolutely adore it. Like I said, it's one of the top 10 of the year as far as I'm concerned. Carson City, the card game. Then coming on back up, we have got Thunderstone Quest. And I got to admit, I don't know if I'm going to keep this. We played just this with its standard rules. And we're disappointed with the campaign play. And we don't have really a high bar to pass for getting good campaign play, but I think it was too divorced from the goings-on that actually happened in-game. That was kind of disappointing. The gameplay itself is good, but I think it's devolved from the original Thunderstone, first edition, which we enjoyed quite a bit more. The only reason it's still on my shelf is because there is supposedly a co-op. Supposedly. I know there is a co-op expansion coming for it this year. It's just a question of will it make it. It's already late because it was a Kickstarter follow-up. Will that co-op expansion save it and make it a keeper for us? I don't know. I'm keeping it on the shelf until I get to find out. And that's Thunderstone Quest. And the reason why I'm not necessarily inclined to keep it unless it turns out to be amazing with the co-op is because I've already got an amazing co-op fantasy deck builder, Dragonfire. The retheming of Shadowrun Crossfire is absolutely fantastic. I've got a whole queue of expansions still to play. Jen and I are definitely enjoying it, even though it's nowhere near as good as Shadowrun Crossfire. The fact that it's almost as good makes it one of the best games there is, and we are still very, very much enjoying it. And now I got to stand back up. Oh, to keep on going higher. And what have we got now? Oh, no, I've done all these. Okay, so let's move over here. Palace Royal. Another game that I picked up from my attic in Malta. Neat, fun stuff from Javier Georges, one of the co-designers of, you know the word, Trois, and Carson City, and so many other games. And, this one's kind of one of his forgotten titles, but it's so good. Hiring, the underlings to move around the mansion, which is a randomly generated grid with all kinds of different actions to be. It would be hard to describe this game really quickly, quite frankly. It's that good, but no surprise considering who it's from. It's a real shame it does not have more eyeballs on it. I did film a rundown and a run-through for it because when I was in England, I didn't have much else to do, so I didn't play and film these attic games that had built up over the years, and I'm so happy to have it back in our life, Palace Royal. Then we've got Gizmos, which is a very, very cool marble picking game. Or it's actually not that. It's an engine building game where we're trying to make an engine out of different cards that makes us more efficient at, our engine is a gizmo we're trying to build, and we need power to run that gizmo, and power comes in the form of marbles that come down a track, and so that's the big randomizer, is what marbles will you be able to draft to power different elements of your engine. But it's mostly about grabbing these cards and putting them together, and it's neat, it's fun, it's fast. It starts a little slow. It takes a little while to get going before you get your engine built up, but that's my only complaint in an otherwise fantastic little game. Then over here, we have got the second edition of Tiny Epic Defenders, along with its expansion, The Dark War. And so this is the first time that I haven't been able to fit all my Tiny Epic stuff into one box. It's amazing that I've got all the Tiny Epic Galaxies into that one box. It's not possible anymore. So how cool that Gamelin included a sleeve so I can put them together so they feel like one box. And Tiny Epic Defenders, I often call it the fantasy Tiny Epic Pandemic because it has a lot in common with that, and it does things that Pandemic does really well, and it's just phenomenal. The Dark War expansion is just absolutely amazing. And I'm happy to have them both all tied up with this neat little thing. Then we have Arraial, a very cool Tetris tile layer. Is it better than Spring Meadow? I'm not sure. It might be. I think Spring Meadow's better. It's a little bit more tense, but this is a absolutely brilliant game, and it's interesting because it's from Soledad and Centiaro, the super heavy Euro publishers behind Madeira and Panamax and all that. And this is really out of keeping with them. A very lightweight, fun, frivolous Tetris tile laying thing. I mean, this is probably as close to Tetris the board game as you can get. Well, actually, that's not true. There are some really, like, Fits? That's even more so. But that was too abstract for us. We actually like the theme here of trying to organize a street party in Portugal, which is, I guess, what an Arraial is. In Portuguese, if I recall correctly. I don't know. But you can see my video. It's really cool. We really enjoyed it quite a bit. Then moving on down, we have Gingerbread House, the sequel to Baron Park, which is Phil Walker Harding once again coming up with cool ways to lay tiles. I'm starting to wonder, is he the king of tile layers? He might be. He is really good at it. And while I like Baron Park more, we did enjoy Gingerbread House too. I have a question though. Since we like Baron Park so much, should we keep this one? I don't know. I'm really on the fence about it. Tough decision to make. But for now, it stays on the shelf. And now this one's kind of a cheat. I've actually had Area 1851 for several years, but for some reason, it never got mentioned in earlier videos. Just completely skipped over it somehow. So I'm just going to say this is a very neat Old West kind of comedy. Or not comedy, but it has a lot of humor in it, as aliens have kind of settled in an Old West town, and so you're spending as much time using Old West technology as alien technology to build machines that can do all kinds of victory point generating stuff. Neat game. Another one that just kind of flew under the radar, which is a real shame because we really enjoyed it quite a bit. Jen loves it. And then Kodama, the Tree Spirits. I actually filmed this quite a while ago when it was a prototype. I didn't think I'd ever get a final copy, but they eventually did send me one. And so it's definitely a keeper. Neat little game of helping trees grow while following certain, using magical powers, while following certain parameters put down by the Kodama, which are the Tree Spirits who want to live in them. Lovely, charming, beautiful game. Then, coming up here, some more new stuff. Fertility, which is a very cool, very head-scratchy, just fun, fast-playing tile-laying game. And it's a rarity. Normally, Jen and I prefer our tile layers where we each get to build our own little world because we don't want to mess with each other too much. Fertility is less about messing with each other and more about inadvertently creating opportunities for each other. And it's really sharp. And very attractive game, really nice. Mercado from Rudiger Dorn. This is... It's a good auction game. It's kind of unique in the way it works for auctions. But what's more importantly is it is the first game I've ever seen that truly replicates Carcassonne the Castle's score system, and where there are certain targets you want to hit on your victory point track, which makes you try to get specific amounts of points when you do things rather than just always try to get the most points possible. It works brilliantly in Carcassonne the Castle, which is all but impossible for people to get. It works brilliantly here. I think it's great for that. And the auctioning stuff is cool too, as Mercado. And then moving on up, we've got Keyflow right next to my baby Keyflower. And this is taking the auction out of Keyflower, cutting its length down by 50%, and giving us a card drafting game, but still doing all the main stuff we did in Keyflower otherwise. Like I mentioned before with Gingerbread House and Baron Park, do I keep both? I gotta ask, do I keep both of these? My gut says no, because of the two, I'd rather play Keyflower because it's the deeper game. But Keyflow is so easy to get to the table. You just set up and you go, and it takes place in half the time, and it gives you most of the same experience. So I'm really torn. But, I mean, it's a phenomenal game. And if you don't have time for Keyflower, you thought Keyflower was too mean, it's definitely worth checking out Keyflow. Alrighty, then we got a 2-for-1, Brass Birmingham and Brass Lancashire. I have yet to play either of these. I have a director request in for Birmingham, so I'm trying to prioritize this, but Jen and I, we haven't played Brass for years, and these days I don't know if we have the same stamina for something as big and heavy as this classic. But I got to give it a go because I'm remiss in my duties to my... so you'll definitely be seeing this in February. I had hoped to get it done in January, but I ran out of time. Feb will be when this will get a run through. Maybe this will get a rundown to coincide and talk about the differences that this brings to the original. But man, this is so beautiful. Who knew Brass could look so good? Okay, and coming on down, we have got Yokohama Duel right next to Yokohama. Yokohama is an absolutely phenomenal game that I can't really even give it a I can't say what genre it is because it's really kind of genre breaking. Yokohama Duel takes a lot of the same ideas but puts them in a worker placement structure, which is much easier for me to categorize. And it's for 2 players only. Don't worry about the term duel. This is not an aggressive game. It's everybody just trying to do their best to score victory points. It's got a lot of the core theme and setting and functions of Yokohama, but put into a very clever and innovative twist on worker placement. You'll be seeing a video for this very soon, probably this week, in fact, depending on when it goes live on Kickstarter, because Tasty Minstrel Games, like Yokohama before it, is going to be doing a deluxeified version of this, because this is like this. These are my original Japanese import copies. Okay, then, Welcome to, which really should be up there with those other roll and writes, although it's not. It's a draw and write, because you draw cards and then write. But I just like it because it fits so well with these 2-player box size games. Neat, fun stuff, really cool. I think for a lot of people, this was the best roll and write. Although, again, maybe rand and write, like random and write, because you some random seed that then you write down stuff. I don't know. But neat about, building a suburb and with some interesting push your luck elements and hoping for the best and clever business. Over here, we have got Luxor, which is, I think this is the most recent game to have come out from Queen. Oh, maybe that's not true, but it's certainly the one we really, yeah, no, it is. And we really liked it a lot. From Rudiger Dorn again. And while the base game is so light that I could probably play it with my mom. I haven't tried that yet. It's been tough I've been trying to get mom to play some games with us, but she just doesn't feel ready for it. I think Luxor would be a good one to try with her, though. But the Queenies that came with it, oh my gosh, they so enhanced the game. And I just backed the expansion for that was on Kickstarter for it, which looks like it adds even more cool stuff. And I think this could go from being a light gateway game to, a fairly meaty game, kind of like, what do you call it? Fresco. Also from Queen Games, which is right next to it. Yeah, alrighty. Then we got Turn and Taxis over here, which is another one of the ones that I pulled out of my attic while we were still in England. One of the best route building games of all time. It is a Ticket to Ride killer as far as I'm concerned, and I don't even know if you can get any more because it's been out of print for quite a while, which is a shame. Standing back up again. I think I'm going to go side to side instead of up and down. That was not been very smart. Okay, what do we got here? Forum Trajanum. My number 3 top game of last year, although I think Blackout Hong Kong eclipses it. Or maybe it doesn't. I'm not quite sure. It's really close. But this is a really sharp game. What do you call it? Or who do you call it? Feld. Yeah, Feld. Because these are all my Felds, baby. Plus, there's and then we held hands. It keeps my Felds company. My Felds and my Felds and my Felds. Where are my Felds at? They're all right here. And Forum Trajanum is fantastic. It's kind of a return to his older designs that are big and meaty and crunchy with a million things going on. And we absolutely adore it to pieces. And then, I'm just going to skip ahead to Carpe Diem, the other Feld game of the year and my number 1 game of last year. Some people think I'm crazy, either because the game isn't that good. We definitely believe it's that good. The tension in this game is so tense, and the core gameplay is so brilliant. And it's unfortunately marred by probably of all these Alea Feld games, probably the worst production of any of them ever. But that doesn't prevent the gameplay from absolutely shining through. It's so brilliant, and you can watch my video to know why. Then coming back up here, Altiplano is another game I was separated from. I ultimately decided, hey, you know what? I got to get rid of some games when we're leaving Malta, and I got Orleans, I got Altiplano. I shouldn't keep both of them. I'm trying to be good. I kept Orleans because I have so much expansion content for it, even though I think Altiplano is the better game. But hey, it's back in my life, and I've got an expansion for it that I'm hoping to cover before too long. Then we've got Valparaiso, a very neat simultaneous action programming game with a lot of stuff going on. Another one that's kind of slipping under the radar, which is a real shame because it's super duper sharp. Then we've got, some little ones. Moria, a neat little engine builder from the designer of Altiplano and Orleans, Rainer Stockhausen. I've done a video for it. Check it out. A lot of engine building game and a little card game. And Peepmots, which I'm actually thinking it's a tiny box, but I don't know if I'm going to keep it now. It's a fun, sharp bird collecting game. It's fairly abstract, but you're collecting bird cards. I was happy to play it because Jen has recently fallen in love. She's become a birder. We have birdhouses all over our house, and birds are just completely swarming us all the time. And so I thought peat moss would be great. But not too long after that, we had Wingspan, and Wingspan kind of replaces this. But it is nice to have a tiny little bird game that maybe we would take with us on the road. I don't know. Continuing on, Raw, another one that was up in our attic. One of the best auction games of all time. One of Rainer Knizia's best games of all time. So brilliant. It's truly an eternal evergreen game. And it lives up to its pedigree. It is the very definition of a modern classic. It's an auction game where you're trying with a really clever auction with an interesting push your luck element to it as you're trying to collect lots of tiles basically and score points. But oh my gosh, it is so great. Endeavor, Age of Sail. This was an interesting year of getting really deluxe upgrades like Brass, I mentioned earlier, and Endeavor. And I think there's another one coming here somewhere. Yeah, there's one coming. And Endeavor is a phenomenal game. I'm so sad to say I've got this, but I haven't even opened the box yet. But I need to. I really want to. I'm so excited about it. Let's see, nothing else here. And then coming over here, we've got Everdell. This kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting much, but it turned out to be a very, very clever card combo machine of a game. And it's gorgeous, super duper charming, and much thinkier than I thought it was going to be. Coimbra, this made my top 10 of the year. An absolutely brilliant dice drafting game with so much stuff going on, and maybe some of the best production I have ever seen for a Euro in terms of art and all that. And you know what? There is a red flashing light on here. I think I'm running out of memory card space. We're going to stop at Coimbra, and I'll be right back, everybody. Okay, I am back. My memory card is empty, and I am now going to continue. I don't think I had anything more to say about Coimbra, so let's go on ahead and jump over here. This is kind of my little Rio Grande area, as I've got New Frontiers and Beta Colony alongside my Roll for the Galaxy hidden over there, and my Turn in Taxis and my Hawaii. But anyway, new stuff. Beta Colony from Matt Riddle and Ben Pitchback, the Fleet guys. Very, very neat Euro. And I totally get why some people are complaining that, yeah, maybe the gameplay's good, but man, it's ugly. I don't know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I'm not saying it's a beautiful game, but it's okay. It's adequate. I guess I'm just not as driven by art as some folks, but the gameplay is really great, even if the presentation is a little bit meh. Heck, you're talking to the guy who said Carpe Diem is the #1 game of 2018, so clearly I don't care about art. But no one's going to complain about the presentation of New Frontier, which is wonderful. Basically, Race for the Galaxy, the board game, and that is, for my money, an improvement over original Race for the Galaxy and Rivals Roll for the Galaxy in terms of gameplay. Really good stuff. Underwater Cities, Vladimir Suhi. And man, this Delicious Games, it's their first published game because Delicious Games is basically him and his wife putting out the best game they can, and kudos to them for launching with such a phenomenal game. Another top 10 of the year, and a really great production overall. There's a couple little things some people are bothered by, but I thought it was near flawless. And it's just a testament to this couple's bravery, quite frankly, because they didn't launch a Kickstarter campaign. They just published the thing and printed up themselves and took it to Essen and hoped for the best. And they're trying to start out, as a new, they're doing it old-fashioned, and I'm full of mad respect for them, particularly because it turns out the game is absolutely great. And then coming down, we're almost done, folks. Almost, kind of. And here's my Renegade area with Spell Smashers and Prowler's Passage. And sorry, what was the other one that they brought out this year? I can't think of it now. Passing Through Petra. Sorry, Passing Through Petra didn't make it. It was cool, but not as cool as Spell Smashers and Prowling Passage. A very, very cool mix of dungeon crawl with word spelling Scrabble style game. Really neat, and I cannot wait for the rules that will turn this into a co-op. I mentioned this in my run-through, that why isn't this co-op by default? And the designer posted on Board Game Geek somewhere that, yeah, we're working on that. And so I'm super stoked for that. Prowler's Passage, a very neat 2-player only tug of war. Neat little game. Thieves prowling under the city, trying to steal stuff. Jen wasn't crazy about the theme, but the puzzly gameplay, which is actually fairly directly confrontational, but it worked for us anyway. Neat, neat. And that's a real rarity with Prowler's Passage. And like I said, I'm almost done, folks, because I am done with this room. But in spite of the fact that I've got these huge, gigantic shelves, I'm going to have to step out into the adjoining room. This is my filming room. Let's come over here to the gaming room, where you can see I'm going to be learning how to play High Rise in a little bit. That box is absolutely ridiculous. Going on Kickstarter in a week or two. I'm not quite sure when. But there's not enough room. So more games out here. Now, every single one of these games is one I have yet to film. Remember, in here, I haven't filmed these games either. Wow, that is really noticeable, the change in sound. I guess all this stuff is working to cut down on the bounce. But anyway, so I haven't filmed all those, but since those are ones I bought, maybe I'll film them someday, maybe not. I talked about that at the beginning. But coming back out here, all of these are actually from game publishers who have sent them as review copies, and I haven't filmed any of them yet. In fact, I haven't even played most of these, and that is atrocious. Some of these I've been holding on to for quite a while, so this is effectively my wall of shame. And so I display my wall of shame proudly to constantly remind myself, I gotta get to work, because there's clearly a bunch of stuff I need to get filming. And what, you ask? Well, here's Treasure Island, which I'm really surprised didn't get more votes. That's why I haven't pushed for it quite so hard, because it didn't quite make it to the top. It seemed like there were things people wanted to see more. I'm keen to try it, although I still worry about the two-player. But yeah, it's one player is Lone John Silver, buried his treasure. All the other players are trying to find it with deduction and all of that. It kind of seems like it's a Tobago on overdrive sort of a thing. Very curious to give it a go. The Ninth World, a skill building game for Numeria. I don't really know much about this. The publisher, Lone Shark, they sent it to me without without me saying yes, I'm keen on this, let's give it a go. But they sent it to me anyway. Actually, I think I might have, I don't know. Oh, yeah, that's what it was, I remember. They sent me the rules. This is what I always do with new games I'm checking out. They sent me the rules, I tried to read them. I had a nearly impossible time reading the rules. I haven't played the game yet, but I'll tell you right now, these are some of the worst rules I have seen in a long time. So, now I'm interested to try it. I'm a little bit nervous because it supports co-op or competitive play, and that's always kind of a red flag. Well, okay, so you do neither of them really well, right? So I'm just not quite sure. It looks like it has great presentation, and Lone Shark Games, there's some smart people there, so I'm not ready to write it off yet, but it didn't get a lot of votes, so it hasn't really been a high priority item. But it's still here waiting, and I will get this filmed come hell or high water someday. Then we've got Futuropia. This is probably going to get filmed in Feb. It looks like it's going to come out on top of the voting. Latest from Freedom and Freeze, a big, heavy Euro, I think, where a post-scarcity utopia is being built by players where everybody can just be free to follow their heart's desire. I love that theme. Can't wait to give it a go. Magnastorm just showed up in the mail today. Sorry if you're one of my Rahdo Runs Through voters and you're saying, hey, why isn't Magnastorm on the ballot I'm voting for? It literally showed up today, and I just put my voting ballot up yesterday. Otherwise, it would have been on the voting ballot. So it'll definitely be on the voting ballot for March, unless I just can't wait, because I'm super stoked for this. It's the latest from Fureland, the Terra Mystica folks, and I have to know going in, this is not a big, super heavy, complex game like that. It's apparently a lighter fare, which is A-okay by me, because I think they tend to go a little bit heavier than Jen and I can handle, but I'm very keen. I don't know hardly anything about it. I just said, okay, sight unseen. It's from Fairyland. I know it's going to be good, but how good? Detective, modern crime board game. I've had this one for quite a while, and this, I mentioned this is a wall of shame. This is a big part of my shame. They sent this to me, gosh, 6-8 months ago, I think. Back around Gen Con time when it came out, or maybe just like slightly after Gen Con. And Jen and I, we sat down, we got about, a third of the way into the first mission, and Jen said, I don't want to play this anymore. Now, to be fair, she was under a super high amount of stress because we were still in the middle of moving, and she was having to deal with all kinds of stuff, and she just didn't have the brain power to devote to it. But I know she was also turned off by, oh my God, so much reading. And while there's probably an equal amount of reading in Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, that's really charming writing. The writing here is just kind of like, this adds nothing. And why are we, I don't know. So I haven't gotten around to filming yet. I haven't even finished the first mission. I think I'm going to have to eventually do it solo. But yeah, it's just sitting in the meantime. We'll wait to see how it goes. Darwinning. This is an interesting one. This looks like a very, very cool trick-taking game where players are evolving their animals with different traits, and the traits are cards that you win in the tricks every round. It seems really sharp and very charming. I sat down and tried to play it as a two-player game with Jen because it has special two-player rules, and I super struggled with those rules. I actually wrote quite a few emails to the developers. They tried to write back. I still wasn't clear. I tried to sit down. Jen said, yeah, I'm not going to play this. You clearly don't understand how to play it, because the two-player rules specifically were just really lacking, let's say. So I still want to give this a go because it looks so sharp and clever. So I'm waiting for an opportunity to play it as a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 player game, because the rules seem very clear. Obviously, it's a trick-taking game, so it was mostly designed for higher player counts, and the 2-player is a variant. So I do want to try this at a higher player count when I get the opportunity to, but it just hasn't come up yet. And then, oh, this is interesting. Gem and Shh. Now, the publisher had sent me a whole set of these little micro games. What was his name? Chris Handy? Chris Handy. He had sent me a whole set of them. And I was really cool because they're all these games. They're basically the size of a pack of gum. And supposedly some of them are very good. And as soon as I got them, they almost spontaneously disappeared. And I didn't know where they went, and I kind of forgot about them. I'll be honest, I was bad. I wasn't being as good about record keeping back then, and I kind of forgot them. When we were getting ready for the move, I found them. They were in some corner, and I don't know which dog, whether it was Dobby or Tula, it must have been one of them, grabbed them and took them and chewed them up, and these were the only 2 that were recoverable. Gem is still pretty much, I think you can just see it has a couple little bite marks there. The cards are fine, but the box has been destroyed, and the other ones were completely wiped out. I don't know if you're seeing this, Chris Handy. I'm so sorry. I mean, this has been probably 2 years since he sent these to me. I am an extremely bad person. I really got to get these filmed because I keep forgetting about them. But and they've been through a lot to get here, but I've had them all these years. I forgot about them, so I'm officially adding them to my collection, and I hope to get them filmed before too long because I love the idea. Alrighty. And I know since then a whole bunch more have come out. It seems like a very, very cool system. Then moving on. Hey, at the same time that Magnastorm showed up, so did Fuji. And now this is from Wolfgang Warsch, the new super hot Euro designer who got 3 nominations for the Spiel and Kennerspiel last year and actually won. Was it the Spiel or the Kennerspiel? I forget which one. But whatever, this is his follow-up, and it is a cooperative dice drafting game. That's all I need to know. I literally don't know anything else. I don't care. It looks nice. Cannot wait to give it a go. Again, if this had shown up one day earlier, it would have been on the voting ranks, so it might be a little bit, but we'll see how things go. Kanban, Driver's Edition. Here's another. I mentioned when I was in the other room that this was a year of some big reprints of games. And I'm so happy because my original edition of Kanban got completely destroyed in the move. It was ripped apart. A bunch of my games were really damaged and whatnot, but Kanban's box was destroyed. And just in time, the Driver's Edition showed up. And I do need to, I'm not going to do a full run through of it, but I do need to do a rundown talking about the differences in this updated version. But wow, still an amazing game, a worker placement game where you only have one worker, and yet it's the heaviest, most complex worker placement game I think we've ever played. All about building cars on assembly lines. Kanban. Manitoba from DLP Games. Now, I've already covered Valparaiso and Moria, and I think this was the other DLP game that he sent me this year that was launched at Essen, and I don't know what to say about this one. I suspect it's very good. It certainly looks like it's got a lot of neat stuff going on. And I know as soon as I do this, everybody says, why aren't you pulling all the boxes out? And I'm sorry, I just don't have time to pull all the boxes out. But it looks like it's a good, solid Euro. But this game has become the poster child for board game cultural appropriation. It's the Cree Nation, but none of these elements actually belong or fit within the Cree Nation. It's actively insulting to not Native Americans, I guess Native Americans, Native Canadians. It's so bad. This was so insensitive in its cultural appropriation of just a hodgepodge of stereotypical Native American tropes that it actually made the not board game news but the real mainstream news in Canada. And DLP, they didn't really seem to care too terribly much. They said, it's just a game, who cares? We just like the title. And you're like, oh my god, guys, do some research. So I've really got mixed feelings about it. I'm not keen on that at all. When I made games, I did my research when they were set or in any way, shape, or form associated with real world stuff. I mean, sure, we took flights of fancy, but we did our research. They did seemingly no research on this at all. So on one level, I should put that aside because, hey, it's a game is a game. But on the other level, man, I don't know. I'm just of two minds about it. And as it happens, it didn't really get enough votes in a previous ballot, so it's kind of been sitting in a holding pattern. Grizzled, the Armistice. I'm not going to be pulling boxes out, folks, but I will pull these ones out because look at these minis. Oh, you can't see them. There we go. Look at them. Oh, get the glare out if I can. No, I can't. There we go. Really awesome. Really good looking stuff. Grizzled is already a phenomenal game, and now it has a phenomenal presentation as well. This is another one of those, hey, big deluxe reprint type things, and this is maybe the coolest one of all. And plus, apparently it adds some kind of campaign gameplay as well, so I'm very keen because we really like the Grizzled, which is saying something because for Jen to enjoy something like that in spite of its World War I horrors of war subject matter, well, that's really something special. That said, I love the fact that the Grizzled and the Grizzled expansion both fit in a tiny little box on my shelf. And this is a huge box. Well, it's a normal size box, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm still very excited to give it a go. And let's see what else we got. Goblivion. This just showed up a few days ago. I don't know much about it. It's a deck-building cooperative tower defense game. Could be cool. I don't know. Actually, I can't. That's not entirely true. I did read the rules for it. And I thought, okay, yeah, this sounds cool. It's coming back to me now. But I was kind of bothered by the fact this is a deck builder where the piles of cards that are available to buy and add to and modify your deck are the same every single time you play. Imagine playing Dominion where the same 10 decks of cards were going to be there every single time you play. And I told him, hey dude, your game sounds cool, but I think I'll wait for an expansion because I'm just worried there's not going to be enough replayability without more cards. It's a deck builder. How can I have more cards? And his response, to be fair, and I appreciate this from reading the rules, but I just don't know if it'll work, his response was that, yeah, the variety doesn't come from the troops that you hire, those are the cards you buy, but they come from the goblins that attack because they create different circumstances. And so sometimes archers are a good buy, sometimes they're not. And I'm like, okay, maybe that'll work. I don't really know, though. I'm kind of inclined to pass. And he said, tell you what, I'll send it to you anyway. If you don't like it, you don't have to film a run-through. That's very rare because whenever somebody sends me a box, I feel like I'm obligated to a run-through. And it's kind of like this weight around my neck. But he said, nope, you're not obligated. I'm like, okay. And I relented, and we'll see. I've heard good things about it, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is one of those ones like Everdell. Everdell, I read the rules when it was on Kickstarter, and I thought, yeah, this doesn't really appeal to me. I don't think there's going to be enough there to get Jenny excited. I said the same thing about Clans of Caledonia as well. Maybe Goblivion will be one of those, and it turns out to really surprise me, and I just didn't read the rules close enough. Alrighty, Lucidity, Six-Sided Nightmare. This is a navigating dreams or nightmare dice rolling drafting game, I think. The reason I have it is not for Lucidity, though, but for Runica, which is going to be a sequel to this that's going to go on Kickstarter sometime later in the year. And I've got the prototype for Runica, but they sent me a copy of Lucidity because I needed that to be able to play Runica because I needed the Lucidity dice. So I'll probably still give it a go at some point, but I don't really know much about it. I remember reading about Runica, though, and I thought those rules sounded really cool. So in theory, Lucidity will be good also. Then we've got Village Attacks. This looks like a very, very cool cooperative tower defense game where you roll dice and then decide how to use them and split them amongst the players because they're all special dice to hold off waves of villagers that are attacking. It looks really good. I haven't filmed it or even played it yet because it's gone on a couple of voting ballots over the last 6 or 7 months, and it always comes out at the bottom, and I don't know why. There just hasn't been much appetite for it from the fans. Although it looks really, really good. So anyway, it's you guys who are voting, or well, the folks who back at a certain level are voting, and they said no, we don't want it. And I'm like, well, I got to get to it because I've had it for 6 months. Again, my wall of shame. Okay, but it looks good to me. The Captain is Dead Lockdown. Oh, now this is an interesting one. Folks, I'm just going to tell you, this is not very good. The Captain is Dead is fantastic. Jen, I really liked it a lot. My only complaint is it was maybe a little bit too on the long side. I'd like it to have kind of like a accelerated, because it can take over an hour, and a pandemic-inspired co-op shouldn't. But other than that, it was really great, especially for Trekkies like me and Jen. So I was super excited to try Lockdown. And Lockdown is still the same core game, but they made some fundamental radical shifts that really add a lot of extra minutia to the rules that slows the gameplay down immensely. And also, just makes it a lot less fun to play because, you know, in the regular one, you start out and you've got all these different tools you can use, and over time, the tools go offline as the aliens attack the Enterprise, or whatever the name of your ship is, and you got to get them back online. In Lockdown, everything starts already offline, so you have no tools, no cool special powers, and you have to slowly sneak around the ship because you've been occupied by the aliens, they've taken over the ship, and turn them back on. And that's just terrible. It just kind of ruins everything that makes the Captain is Dead cool. Hey, get going, and maybe eventually you'll get some cool special powers. I'm oversimplifying, but we tried playing it, and we were really disappointed. So, I don't know if I'm going to film a run-through, because I don't film run-throughs of games I don't like. And playing this, I'd rather just go back. I don't see a reason, but I don't know. It's something I have to resolve. I need to contact AEG and say, hey, look, you guys sent this to me. Here's what I'll say. If you want me to film it, let me know. Sometimes publishers have said yes. That's how you got your Myth run through. And sometimes they say no. I don't know what they'll say. Subatomic. And, where's the other one? Oh, Virulence right there. These two are both from Genius Games, which is basically John Covio, who is a science teacher, and he's trying to make fun board games that teach scientific concepts. You know, the fundamental building blocks of atoms in this deck builder, and in this one, the functions of how viruses work. And I love what he's doing. The games of his I've played so far have been nice, but not really for me and Jen. I covered one of them when it was on Kickstarter. But these ones went on Kickstarter as well. They were successful. He sent them both to me. I'm looking forward to giving them a try. Especially Subatomic, because it looks like it's a really solid deck builder. Okay, and then finally, is this what I'm ending on? No, almost. Next to last, Big Dig. This just showed up from Tasty Minstrel. It's a little roll and write. It looks sweet and charming. It kind of looks like Dig Dug, the roll and write. I don't know much more about it, but I'm keen to give it a go. And finally, the last one, Dice Throne Season 2, which I'll be honest, I have no interest in whatsoever. The publisher sent it to me because, this is basically a repeat of the Thunderstone Quest. They're working on co-op rules. And I've heard this is a really great one-on-one players dueling each other using special custom dice and all that. And it's really good if you want to have a dueling game, but Jen and I don't want that. So I haven't been interested, but I'm holding on to it to wait and see if the co-op rocks. Because as I understand it, the core gameplay socks. So give me a co-op expansion and maybe it'll work for us. And that's it. I mean, over there, look at all these expansions I've got. And, oh my God, Houses of Renaissance, I've had that for over a year. Jeez Louise, and expansions are tougher to get to the table and film. They used to be easier, but now that more and more, I feel like I have to prioritize these big games before I get to them, and I never end up getting them. Look at all those expansions and blister packs. And then down there, those are, here's a sneak peek of what'll be coming in the next couple of months, because these are prototypes I've got for various Kickstarters and the like. So that'll be coming soon. Oh boy. All right, folks, I am done. No, I'm not. I don't know how this happens every year. Even though I pull out all the games, I spend a lot of time making sure I've got it all covered. Then when I start filming, I just skip a bunch. So let's go back and talk about the ones I skipped. Poor little Fire of Eidolon. I don't know much about this one. It basically was sent to me along with a Kickstarter prototype. And I was actually covering the Kickstarter. That was, what was it? Incoming Transmission, which is a neat little game. This is from the same publisher. I guess it's a cooperative video game themed dungeon crawl. Looks nice enough. Like I said, they just sent it along because they were sending the prototype anyway. Maybe someday I'll get around to it if you folks want to see it. And then coming back in here, what do we got? Oceana. This is another one that was in the attic. Neat little tile there from, is this from the designer? I think it's from the designer of Settlers of Catan. So kind of forgotten, but maybe someday I'll film it. I remember Jen and I liked it a million years ago, back when we first got into gaming. So that one is covered. What else did I miss? Oh, let's see. Out of the way, chair. Good old 5-Minute Empire. I did a run-through for this one when it was on Kickstarter. They finally sent me a final copy. I haven't actually played it anymore, but this is a great one to keep around for playing with family members, whoever show up. And Jen and I enjoyed it too as a real-time co-op. Neat, fun, silly game. Alrighty. What else we got? Oh, in case anybody's curious about what is behind Jen's little gamer glass thing, it's a box full of Magic singles, about a bajillion of them, because when we got here, we finally got all our Magic cards back. Actually, that's not true. There's still a lot of them down in California, but that's just a box of singles holding up these, and then, I forget what's in this little box here. Maybe some more singles, something like that. And and in case you're curious, what's holding up my Rahdo Runs Through sign you always see in the background of my videos? It's my original copy of Travel Scrabble that I bought, right around the same time I bought that Pandemic when we first were going to be making that road trip. And that was what I was looking for. We ultimately caught, and you can see it has not gotten much love over the years, but I picked it up from the attic when we were back in England. And now it serves its main purpose of holding this sign up. I'm sorry. It's still perfectly fine. Alrighty, but anyway, back to games that I didn't cover. Hello, Wingspan. Probably going to be in the top 10 of the year. It's that good. An amazing engine builder about building up bird sanctuaries. And you actually are running 3 different engines at once, and it's all about getting synergy between them. Between 2 Castles of Mad King Ludwig, another top 10 game of the year, combining between 2 cities and Castles of Mad King Ludwig to make something better than either one of the original games, in my opinion. Gugong, another top 10 candidate of the year, or winner of the year. Really neat worker placement. Very clever new take on it. Liked it a lot. Set in ancient China when we're trying to bribe officials. But we don't bribe them. We just give them gifts and they give us gifts. It's really neat. Watch the run through. Teotihuacan, City of the Gods. Everybody says Teo, but I looked it up. It's Teotihuacan. Come on, folks. But another neat worker placement game. It's actually a combination of Praetor from NSKN, the same publisher, and what was the other one? Versailles. It's actually interesting. I didn't know this at the time, but I've since found out that, what was it? Daniel Taschini, who's already a respected designer, he was such a fan of the games of NSKN, especially Praetor and Versailles. He took the combination of those two as the inspiration for what is effectively a sequel to Zolkin. That's really, really cool. I love that. And apparently he just took it to NSK and said, you guys have to publish this because you were the inspiration for it. That's neat. Then we have Xi'an. Neat game. Again, I did a run through for it a while ago. Very, very cool. But I gotta tell you, folks, my throat is running off. So let's just neat game. Check out the run through. For all of these, check out the run through. London, yeah, this is the last one I'm talking about of a cool deluxe revamping of classic. So I got rid of the old one, got the new one, and Habitats, phenomenal tile placement game. This would probably make my top 10 tile layers if I ever updated that video. Really neat, fun stuff. Building a wildlife habitat. Okay, yoinks. And, hey, since we're here, hey, look, I got my Golden Gig 2017 award for Best Podcast, and I've got Excellence in Media and Content, Rahdo Runs Through from Van Ryder Games, which I guess is kind of odd. I appreciate it. I know that means they like it, but, it's not like they're an impartial third party. Hey, there's those dice towers I made a while ago. The dragon, I accidentally kind of sort of stepped on it and destroyed it, but I've still got the other 3, and and the rest of this. Oh, I'm sorry, I do not now remember who made this for me, but I've always loved it. This page folding art that is Rahdo. You can see it from certain angles. Unfortunately, in the move, it got kind of squished. Oh, that's kind of depressing, but still, love it. And then another fan made an alternate Rahdo Runs Through sign for me, which is really cool. But, we decided to stick with the already recognizable, simpler one. Okay, folks, I think we are back to where, let me put the camera where it was, where I interrupted. Now, what was I saying? Another yearly collection rundown in the bag. Let's come back in here. The sound is nicer. And, I'll see you again soon. And hopefully next year, I'll be working better on my ratio, getting rid of more games than I've got. Because, hey, even though I've got 3 Calic shelves instead of the 2 Billies I had, and I've got a little bit of room to expand. You can see I'm just storing some various filming stuff in those, and I've got some empty space down there. I'm almost out of space, so I got to start culling again. It's a never-ending cycle, which I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with. But that's it, folks. 2019 in the bag. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks, as always, for supporting the show. And talk to you later. Have a nice day. So long. Bye-bye.